Hey guys, welcome to Ratios Day 1. This is my favorite unit in Singapore math in 6th grade. I love ratios and I think you're going to like ratios. It's very logical and you are going to feel like a hero when you solve some of our word problems in this unit. Alright, so before we really get into ratios, we need to do a little bit of a mini lesson on finding the greatest common factor. And also a little bit of ratio vocabulary. So you have in front of you, or you should have in front of you, some notes that I'm going to ask you to fill in the blank with the following definitions. So let's talk about ratios. A ratio shows the relationship between two or more things. It is a proportion. A ratio, it's really important to remember that a ratio is a relationship. It is not a quantity necessarily. So we do not use units with ratios. The greatest common factor is the largest number that is a common factor of two or more numbers. A prime number is a number that is divisible only by 1 and itself. Hopefully this is a review for you. Some examples of prime numbers would be 2, 3, 7, 11, 13. We could go on because there are many of them. All right, a few more vocab words. A fraction is a numerical representation, such as 3/4 or 5/8, indicating the quotient of two numbers. That concept that a fraction is a quotient might be a little bit new for you. I don't know if you've done that in the past. So that's important to remember. This year already we've talked about fractions being division problems that we just don't solve. A fraction is a quotient. A factor is a number that you can multiply with another number to get a product. Okay. Greatest common factor. The greatest common factor is the largest number that is a common factor of two or more numbers. We are going to go through the steps to find the greatest common factor. Hopefully you have worksheet 52 in front of you. It looks like, it says focus on the bottom. It says reteaching worksheet 52, greatest common factor. If you don't have it, you're probably going to be fine because my PowerPoint has all of the examples on it. So if you're watching this from home because you missed school today, you're probably okay. But I still want you to do the work with me on a lined sheet of paper. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find the greatest common factor of 18 and 42. Our step 1 is to find all the factors of the smaller number first. In this case, that number is 18. So I would use the rainbow method that you guys learned in 5th grade. And I would start with 1 and 18 and put those on the outside. Then I would fill in the middle with 2 and 9. Those are my next factors. And then 3 and 6. And then I'm done. Those are all of the factors for 18. Now again, what I mean by that is those are numbers that you can multiply to find the product. So for example, 1 times 18 is 18. That's the number I'm shooting for. So 1 and 18 are factors. 2 times 9 is 18. So 2 and 9 are factors. 3 times 6 is 18. So 3 and 6 are factors. Okay, my second step in finding the greatest common factor is to look at the factors that I just listed and figure out what is the largest factor. Obviously, that is going to be 18. Now, my next step is this. Is the larger number, 42 in this case, divisible by this factor? Since I'm trying to find the greatest common factor between 18 and 42, I'm going to take that 42 and I'm going to ask myself, can I divide 42 by 18, which was my largest factor for my smaller number? And the answer, of course, is no, I can't. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to find the next biggest factor, which is 9. So my next largest factor is 9, and I'm going to ask myself the same question again. Is the larger number 42 divisible by 9? And the answer, of course, is no. Moving down the line, I'm going to look at the next number. The next largest factor is 6. So I can look at my larger number again and ask myself, is 42 divisible by 6? And this time we have a winner because 6 times 7 is 42. So my greatest common factor of 18 and 42 is 6. Okay, we're going to do another example. Now we want to find the greatest common factor of 16 and 40. So we'll follow the same process. We're going to find all of the factors of the smaller number first. So the factors for 16, if we use the rainbow method, we're going to find that they are 1 and 16, so 1 times 16 is 16, 2 and 8, 2 times 8 is 16, and 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. There's the list right there. All right, let's follow our next step. What is the largest factor? And the largest factor is 16. So we ask ourselves, is the larger number 40 divisible by this factor? The answer, of course, is no. So we're going to go to the next factor. The next largest factor is 8. And let's ask ourselves the same question. Is the larger number 40 divisible by this factor? The answer this time is yes, it is, because 8 times 5 equals 40. So 8 will be our greatest common factor of 16 and 40. Okay, so here's a little flow chart for you that I think is kind of cool. So this lists the steps that we just went over in just more of a graphic representation. So step 1, find the factors for the smallest number first. Then find the largest factor for that number. Then ask, is the larger number divisible by this factor? If no, then find the next largest factor and repeat the process. If yes, then you found the greatest common factor. Yay! Okay, let's find the greatest common factor of 9 and 28 using our flowchart. Okay, let's find the factors for the smallest number first. So our smaller number is 9. So we want to find the factors for 9. And they are going to be 1 and 9 and 3. 1 times 9 is 9, and 3 times 3 is 9. So those are all of our factors. All right, our next step is to find the largest factor, which of course is 9. Now we're going to ask ourselves, is the larger number divisible by this factor? So, is 28 divisible by 9? No, it's not. So now we're going to go to the next largest factor, which was 3. And we'll ask ourselves, is 28 divisible by 3? And the answer is no. Well, we still have one more factor that we can look at, and the next largest factor is 1. Is 28 divisible by 1? Well, sure it is, because everything is divisible by 1. So we found the greatest common factor, and it is 1. Okay, so on your worksheet 52, you're going to use this flowchart to find all of the circle problems, which are all the odds on your page. So go ahead and do all the odd problems. If you need an extra piece of paper, grab one. You're going to be finding the greatest common factor between 2 and 3 numbers. So if you have 3 numbers, you're still going to follow the same process. You will still find all of the factors of the smaller number, start with that, then proceed to the larger number, and then the largest. Okay, here is why this is important for ratios. During this unit, we're going to be working with fractions quite a bit, not as much as when we actually get to our fractions unit, but a fair amount. And we will want to be able to simplify fractions using greatest common factor. So when we're looking at a fraction, we're going to use the same process. We look at the fraction, then we find the greatest common factors of the two numbers, the numerator and the denominator. If the greatest common factor is 1, then we're done. The fraction is simplified. However, if the greatest common factor is not 1, then we need to divide the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor. Then we will write the fraction and then we'll stop. So let's see what this looks like with an example. So looking at the fraction that I have on the screen there, 8/28, we're going to find the greatest common factor of the two numbers. So obviously we would start with the lower number 8, and we'd find the greatest common factor, or the factors of 8 first. And the factors of 8 are 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. Then we would look at our second number, 28, and we'd ask ourselves, is 28 divisible by 8? The answer is no. So we go to the next greatest factor, which is 4. And we ask ourselves, is 28 divisible by 4? The answer is yes. So we will divide both the numerator and the denominator by 4, and we get 2 in the numerator and 7 in the denominator. 8 divided by 4 is 2, 28 divided by 4 is 7, and so our final fraction is 2/7. And that's it. Have a nice evening.